What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Chiefs win 23-20 on the road over the New York Jets in what was, let's be honest, a pretty ugly game. The offense was meh, at least compared to what we've come to expect from that group. And the defense, while they did make some plays, they also made Zach Wilson look like an NFL starting caliber quarterback. So there's a lot to break down. We're going to talk through some of the records that were broken, some moments from this game that we probably won't forget, and a whole lot more. This is 10 Things.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello, good people, and welcome to 10 Things here on KC Sports Network. I'm BJ Kissel, hanging out with Hayley Lewis. Hayley, what's good?
The Chiefs won.
That's all you have to say.
That's all I care. They won. It's a W. We'll talk about it. We'll forget about it later. Actually, let's say that. We'll forget about it.
Yeah, I enjoy doing these kinds of shows. Like, what are you going to remember about this game like 2 months from now? Like, there's a few things. I want to tease. I don't want to give it away now. We've got 10 things to get through. But there are two things that I feel like I'm really going to remember after this game. But the one thing that I want all of you to remember is that we appreciate Mission Taco Joint for being the presenting sponsor of this show. There's now 3 locations in Kansas City, including the new one out in Leawood in the Park Place location. And we love them not only for being the presenting sponsor of the show and for making great tacos and great guac. Always got to get the guac there. But also appreciate the fact that they partnered with us and our foundation to give back with our Feed It Forward program that we partnered with Hope Faith Ministries, the homeless shelter. Once a month, Mission Taco and folks from KC Sports Network are going up to Hope Faith and delivering and serving meals to KC's homeless, and we appreciate their support. And if you want to support us and support them, you can go to any Mission Taco Joint location in Kansas City on Tuesdays, mention KCSN, and you get 10% off your order. And make sure to order the brand new, now that it's the first show that we've got a chance to talk about this, the Any Given Holiday drink at the Mission Taco locations. All proceeds from that are going to the KCSN Foundation and benefiting Braden's Hope, which is pediatric cancer research organization. They do phenomenal work. And so you go to any of the Mission Taco locations, get an Any Given Holiday drink. It's got pineapple. It's got the Ben Holiday bourbon. Ooh. Trust me, one of my favorite days ever of working at KCSN was the taste testing day, Hayley, of going to make sure that the cocktails were good. And trust me, they're very, very good. So go order that. Get to help some good people and have a good drink at the same time.
Paid to get tipsy at work.
Yeah. It was in like middle of the afternoon, like a Tuesday too.
Like, it better.
It was great. I drink a ton.
Get to bed by 7.
Too many practices, and then I was sitting out and sweating in the heat watching my son play football, I think, that day. But anyway, appreciate Mission Taco Joint for their support. All right, hey, let's get to the 10 things top of mind for us right now. A lot of these stats we found, Next Gen Stats, Pro Football Focus, the game notes following the game from the Chiefs Communications Department. So a lot of this coming from a lot of different places, but want to get us started?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Mahomes.
Good one to start with.
200th career touchdown. It looked like one of his worst games ever, but there was a record broken. The fact that he completes the feat in 5 games faster than the previous record holder, that of course being Dan Marino. So 84 games, he gets 200 career touchdown passes. That happened when he hit Noah Gray for that 34-yard pass in the first quarter, when all things were nice and dandy.
Yeah, it started off awesome. Like, we're going to get into a lot of this. We don't want to kind of talk over some of the other points here, but the thing I love about this show, and if you've listened to this, or you listened to it last year, you got to always start with Mahomes. Yeah. With all the records, it's either Andy Reid and the wins.
It's always something new.
Yeah, or it's Patrick Mahomes and what he's doing. But again, we talked about not normalizing greatness, all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of stats and records and paces that we try to be very intentional about explaining. And that, again, Patrick Mahomes, 84 games it took him in his career to start his career to reach 200 passing touchdowns. And looking at the top 5,
I know, right?
2 of like best quarterbacks ever, Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, and Brett Favre.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're all decent. It's just crazy to me to think that it took Aaron Rodgers 15 more regular season games or 15 more games, almost an entire season, to reach 200 passing touchdowns once he got in there. So
because he spends so much time in the box. Just chilling in the suite.
All right, we're going to move on to number 2.
That's also good decision.
Patrick Mahomes had 51 rushing yards on 7 rushes/scrambles. His 51 rushing yards bring his career total to 1,701 yards rushing, earning him the franchise record for rushing yards by a quarterback in franchise history. Mahomes' 51 rushing yards last night, Sunday night, surpassed the previous record of 1,672 set by Alex Smith. And it was Mahomes' fourth quarter 24-yard rush that kept the Chiefs' drive alive, converting on 3rd and 22. Mahomes' heroics kept the ball in the offense's hand as they worked the clock to secure the 23-20 win. Some other guys. Friend of the program, Trent Green, is on here. Top 5 most rushing yards in a career by a Chiefs quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, like we just said, number 1. Alex Smith, number 2. Lenny Dawson, the late, great Lenny Dawson, number 3. Then Steve Fuller and Trent Green rounding out the top 5.
It's what's interesting about this stat is the fact that when you think of Patrick Mahomes, maybe earlier in the beginning of his career, you thought of him as more of like not ever more of a running quarterback,
right,
than what he can obviously put through the air. But he scrambled more. It was before defenses really caught on to what he was doing. Now we're, years down the line and we see this, and you don't really think of Mahomes as much of a running quarterback per se.
Yeah.
However, when he gets pissed and can't get it done through the air and things aren't maybe flowing, he's like, oh my God, I got to take care of it again. Yeah. And like, you'll just see him so frustrated. And there was that one play where I think he even just dove to get the first down. It ended up being called back, I think, due to a holding call. Shocker there. But the fact that he will just put his body on the line, it scares the crap out of everyone in Chiefs Kingdom because you don't want to see that. You want to wrap him in bubble wrap and hope that he never moves out of the pocket. But the fact that he's able to get those yards, and I mean, kind of runs funny too.
Yeah,
like
he's called
gets it done.
He's called like sneaky athletic. Like that was the way they used to describe. And no, it's a whole different conversation. But like,
just interesting.
Yeah, I go back to, and obviously bringing up a different game, but the playoff game against the Bengals last year, he's running around on like one leg and has like the fastest ball carrying time of his career. He's running faster than he's ever ran before. I know, obviously, one of the guys who helps him has helped him most of his life. Bobby Stroop tweets out a lot of these things and a lot of the next gen stats and the analytics as far as like how he's training. If you watch the series, Quarterback on Netflix, like
sure, you see a lot more of that insight
in the best way, like a nerd about that stuff. Like it's the advanced training information, like analytic, the technology that's available now to get these guys to be at their absolute best in every which way.
Right.
It's crazy. And per next gen stats, Patrick Mahomes clinched the Chiefs' 23-20 win over the Jets last night on a 9-yard scramble on 3rd and 8 with 2 minutes remaining in the game. This is, again, per next gen stats. Mahomes on scramble runs in 2023. 159 rushing yards, ranks first in the NFL. 11 first downs, tied for first in the NFL. And plus 16.0 EPA, which is also first in the NFL. He's the best scrambling quarterback in the NFL. What else do you say? Like,
I just didn't see that one coming. I think it may be because of what he does through the air is so magical sometimes that you forget that he can scramble this well. And you mentioned his trainer tweeting out things about him. I mean, it's incredible what they get him ready for in any given situation, and he always capitalizes. You give him the slightest bit of opportunity. I'm so sorry for any defense that faces him. It has to be so frustrating.
It's not just that there's not a weakness in his game, it's that everything is a strength. Like everything he's really good at everything. It's like, he can make these crazy passes and he's super accurate. He can throw off platform and he can throw back across his body. And you're like, don't do that unless you're Patrick Mahomes because he trains this stuff. The fact that you add in the rushing and when to rush and the feel for the game, the feel for his pocket presence.
This football IQ, yeah.
It's one of the things that kind of jumps out when you watch other quarterbacks, especially watching really as a bad example because Mac Jones is terrible. But you watch other, and even like Aiden O'Connell, like with the bad Raiders games. No, but like they have no feel or like internal clock as far as when to run out of the pocket, or if you start to scramble the pocket and then you chop your feet and get like set to platform throw, like you can't do that because there's guys chasing you from behind. Right. And that's when a lot of the strip sacks and a lot of those things happen. And you never see it with Mahomes. You rarely ever see him leave the pocket, reset his feet, and then deliver it on a platform throw. He is throwing on the run as soon as he starts scrambling. He never stops moving once he leaves the pocket. He's trying to hit a moving target, which is obviously proven to be very difficult for people because he's the best in the league at it. Shocker.
Also interesting that, this is arguably one of his worst games ever. We're still talking about the fact that he leads the league in all these different, situations, and the fact that with what he was able to do on the ground yesterday, the Chiefs got it done.
It's either heavy duty spin that we just don't see ourselves doing, or to be honest, or it's just like, you know what, even as bad is better than
That's I think
everybody
that's
else, and
his worst is better than people's best. So
let's keep it in perspective. That yes, they deserve to be better. There's a lot of talk about the younger receivers right now and getting open, and I'm sure the Justin Ross conversation is going to continue to happen with people being confused. And I appreciate anyone who's listened to any of our shows since training camp and the Justin Ross love came. Not that we don't think he's an immensely talented young player, but there's a lot that goes between highlights on social media and being able to step on an NFL field against an NFL defense and be able to do the things that are needed to be done for this offense to function the way that it has with veteran receivers who are used to doing these things with Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's why the offense isn't quite there yet. And we've talked about this over the last few weeks. Still good enough to get it done, still working towards them being on the same page where it just clicks a little bit better, and only they know the answers to exactly what's going on any given play. But a lot of it, I think, is just chalk it up to inexperience.
Yeah.
So
the playbook.
One player that hasn't had a ton of experience, but is continuing to put up numbers and just came off the best game of his career at number 3, Isaiah Pacheco scores 1,000 yards. Second-year running back Isaiah Pacheco reached the 1,000-yard rushing mark after recording 115 yards on 20 rushes Sunday night against the Jets. His 115 rushing yards brings his career total to 1,100. Pacheco becomes the 36th player in franchise history to surpass 1,000 rushing yards, and he's the third active member of the team to do so, joining Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Patrick Mahomes. Pacheco also became the 6th fastest player in franchise history to reach 1,000 yards, doing so in just 21 career games.
This is a kid's story who I love. I love this kid's story. 7th rounder out of Rutgers, comes from New Jersey, so it's kind of like a home game for him as well to do that in front of, I'm sure, a lot of people that he knows. And not the easiest upbringing. Lost siblings, had a lot of things that he went through personally, and the fact that he's able to do what he does on the field. This is me from like the journalist side of like the sappy sides of things, where you see what a player not only becomes on the field but off the field. His whole life has changed forever, what he's been able to do with the Chiefs, and it's all earned. You know, the fact that we always joke about how we love watching him run, and the fact that he's allergic to staying on the grass, and he runs so aggressive, so angry. He's always like, it's just like his arms pump faster than his legs can
He's
even run.
Angry at the ground. Yeah. I love watching people describe how he runs, because it's just like
everyone has a new way to say it, but it's impressive what he's been able to do in such a young player in a short amount of time. And I know we keep talking about the second-year players really coming out. If last year, I mean, if he ended last year after his first year in the NFL, if that was the end of his entire NFL season or career, it would have been like, yeah, that was a phenomenal player. And the fact that he's continuing to pick up right where he left off and do even better, I see a huge, huge role for him in this new run game that the Chiefs are developing, and he's at the forefront of it.
We saw this a few years ago, where every once in a while the Chiefs the passing game just kind of stalls, and the running game carries them. And the game that pops out to me was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but it's against the Bills a couple of years ago, where all of a sudden he just went off for like 130 yards rushing. It's like when they needed him and they needed the running game to step up, he came through. And part of a lot of these numbers, not that Pacheco doesn't run hard and that he doesn't turn what would be a 2-yard run into a 6-yard run because of the way that he obviously runs hard, but the career long. He had a 48-yard rush in the game last night. It was the longest rush of his career, breaking his previous career long of just 31 yards. And then later, Pacheco put an exclamation point on his performance by reaching a new single game high, career high of 115 yards rushing. That broke his previous high of 107 yards that came last season in week 11 against the Chargers. But second time in his career, he's gone over 100 yards. And per next gen stats, and these are always fun, Pacheco gained a career high 100 yards rushing after contact. 115 yards rushing on Sunday night against the Jets. According to Next Gen Stats, saying this again for effect, 100 of his 115 yards came after contact last night against the Jets. Pacheco has recorded the 4th highest success rate among running backs entering the NFL in 2022. That was the 4th highest success rate of 45.8%. And on that 48-yard rushing touchdown, top speed was 19.35 miles per hour. His expected rush yards was 9. So rushing yards over expected was plus 39. Again, according to Next Gen Stats, I'm not going to pretend to know how it works. I'm just going to take it for what it is. That's pretty damn cool. 0.5% touchdown probability on his 48-yard touchdown run. The most improbable touchdown run of his career. Again, according to the people who do this, I was going to say nerds, but that's not fair. According to the people who figure these things out, Tucker's saying it's fair. Producer said it's fair. So according to the Nerds and Next Gen stats, you come up with cool stuff that we all talk about to brag about our players. 0.5% touchdown probability on his 48-yard run.
Much thanks to some good blocks. There were some good blocks, but also
Smith killed the guy.
He did. So there will be a funeral expected next week.
That's what we should have done to start this with a funeral.
Welcome.
That's a June episode. It's just a funeral for everyone that Trey Smith is
he's flattened, man. Thoughts and prayers. But I would say the fact that you were mentioning the yards after catch, and you were mentioning the fact that he is just able to continue. He always, and you see this even when he runs into a pile of the opposing team's defensive line. Somehow, all of a sudden, you see, there's Pop just popping right out on the other side. He never stops moving his feet, even when they're blowing the whistle to call the play dead. He continues to move. He continues to find ways. He never stops. And I think that's incredible. The fact that the Chiefs have a player like him, and hopefully just continues to get better. Also, you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you have Jerick McKinnon there helping, kind of bolster up that run game. And then you had Mahomes yesterday too. So
it's working well. I just like that
on the ground, looking good.
I just like when he takes a big hit, he just pops back up, and he's back in the huddle before the guy who tackled him even stands up, and he's like, "Where did the guy I just tackled go?" He's like, "Oh, he's chilling over there."
Yeah,
like, it's fine. He's back in the huddle.
That was an impressive touchdown run, though. I think that got everyone juiced up and excited to see what he does next week.
I can't imagine how cool that must have felt for him. 2 hours from his hometown, he breaks into the open field, and as soon as he turned it on and cut back towards the middle,
19 miles per hour.
Awesome. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
A bit speedy.
You know what else was pretty good is the Chiefs' offense in the first quarter. This surprised me when I was looking through these. This is number 5, and then we'll take a break after this one. We'll get some of the defensive stuff after this, which is amazing that we're talking about the offense for the first half of the show, based on the totality of that performance.
First half.
But Chiefs racked up 200 yards of offense in the first quarter of Sunday's game, marking the 4th best offensive output in terms of yards gained in a first quarter for the Chiefs franchise dating back to 1991. The 4th most offensive yards in a first quarter since 1991 was last night against the Jets. And all anyone's talking about is how bad the offense was. It's what have you done for me late? Like, that's not probably a fair thing to say right there, but pretty crazy. We're talking about how bad the offense was, and yet the first quarter could not have started better. According to these numbers.
He's probably at 2000.
What year were you born?
1998.
It's like,
Haley, I need to take a minute.
I don't blame you after that. Jeez. Okay. Anyways, we always find the positive in things. So there's a positive. There's
attempting to play football from high school in 1998. It's bunting. I get bunt. About it. All right. The other case for anybody listening to the audio or just generally curious on which games the Chiefs have scored or had more than 200 yards of offense in the first quarter. That would be 230 yards at Jacksonville on September 8th, 2019. I remember that one well. That was Miles Jack lost his mind and got thrown out, and all hell broke loose at the beginning of the game. It was about 175 degrees on the field. I will never forget that game. Number 2 at Tampa Bay, November 29th, 2020. They had 238 yards. Also remember that one because I'm pretty sure that was after a bad loss. Can't remember which one.
Yes.
But it was one of those like, I don't know if the Chiefs offense is going to be able to get right after a tough game. And they went out there and just absolutely.
There was no crowd in that game too either. I remember that.
Yes.
Still that COVID season.
And then finally, 243 yards against Denver on Christmas Day back in 2016. That all under Andy Reid.
Seems to be good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does.
Do you want to talk about the second quarter?
I want to throw to a break right now because I'm still reeling over this. Tucker was born when I was in high school kind of deal. So we'll be right back after this break.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Hey, welcome back to 10 Things. I'm BJ Kissel. That's Hayley Lewis. We just got done talking about the Chiefs offense. Let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs defense, Haley. You want to read
L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, let's talk about L'Jarius Sneed.
Okay, so he was aligned across from Garrett Wilson on 24 of 40 routes, aligning in press coverage on half of them. Sneed allowed just 2 receptions for 20 yards on 6 targets to Wilson, 3 of those being tight windows. He has allowed fewer than half of his targets, so that's 14 of 20, that's 48.3%, to be caught this season. Snead as the nearest defender in 2023. You can take away the stats right there and explain that in further detail for the nerds who are not myself. But that's
it's just good.
Impressive what he's been able to do.
Yeah, this is per Next Gen Stats. The target EPA for L'Jarius Snead is minus 14.1, which is third best in the NFL, which means when you throw it in, bad things happen. That's a really fancy way of saying that. Completion percentage when thrown his direction, 48.3%, which is third best in the league with a minimum of at least 20 targets. And then his coverage success rate, 72.4%, which is also third best in the NFL. You combine that with Pro Football Focus having Trent McDuffie as the number one cornerback in the NFL, which I know they talked about on the broadcast a little bit last night. He is a blossoming star. You've got two absolute studs in the defensive backfield for the Chiefs right now. And that's not even talking about the player who made the play of the game that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, Chiefs defense carrying things right now, and shout out L'Jarius Snead. He was going to be a huge piece of this. Weren't sure with training camp and the knee and all the kind of issues and the kind of uncertainty with him going into the year. It was great to see him go up against the fighting Garrett Wilsons.
Yeah. Coach Spags always talks about how Snead is one of those kids who just puts his head down, takes the criticism you give him, and gets the job done. He is and every time I've interviewed him, he is very short and to the point. He takes no credit for himself. He is just all about getting in the meetings and diving deep into the playbook and understanding his assignments and studying and being ready and prepared for moments like these. And I think that his name isn't brought up enough in what he does. I think it was earlier on, but obviously there are new flashier names, and we'll talk about some of the stuff in the secondary. Yeah. But L'Jarius Snead is a cornerstone for what gets done back there, and he is that leader. After Matthew left, when Tyrann Mathieu left, he was the guy who had to step up and fill that role, and he's been exceptional at it ever since.
Yeah,
so cool to see these, basically.
Feel this way. The players that were always really good and really humble and crediting everyone else, crediting their coaches, or guys who credit like the scout team players for helping them get ready throughout the week, but then they'd be really just humble and showing a lot of humility about everything. And they wouldn't talk a lot. Those are the guys I want to talk to more.
I know.
There's a guy that really likes talking. It was a good soundbite, but it's like, I was like, I want to talk to you. It's like, I don't really like talking to the media. I just want to play football. I was like, I know. Like that's what fans love. Like they don't want all that. So with Coach Reed, he does the media. He's funny with it. Doesn't love doing it because he just wants to coach football. Yeah. Which, as a fan, that's exactly what you want. As a journalist, you want to be able to explain things, be able to create content, do your deal. But having players and coaches that just care about doing their jobs and being really, really good at that is part of the culture that's built. Let's be honest. So let's talk about Chris Jones.
Chris Jones
got it done when he needed to at the end of the first half, getting a sack of Zach Wilson, loss of 8 yards. Yeah. Jones now recorded at least 1 sack in all 3 games he has played this season, with 3.5 total sacks on the year to lead the Chiefs defense. And in addition to his sack, Jones racked up 3 tackles.
Yeah, he was due up for that. He had pressure all over Wilson, especially in the fourth quarter. And to see him be able to get that done, it was in a clutch situation. It saved the Chiefs. It put them Mahomes back on the field. And Mahomes was able to have that perfect drive to end things and ultimately get the win. But Jones coming up as a veteran player in clutch situations like that, knowing when a game is on, like this is not the first time with a game on the line that he has made a turnover. Technically, I guess, giving the ball back to Kansas City. But he coming up in those situations, I think, is the reason why he should be paid.
Yeah.
Like it's yes, he makes sacks. Yeah. Yes, we get McDonald's on Mondays. That's great and all. But the fact that
Chris making Kansas City fatter for the last 5 years.
It's really the fact that he is a veteran player who gets it done when it has to be done.
Absolutely.
Segment. Boom. Mic drop.
Just letting it breathe a little. Before I transition to George Karlaftis, because it's not on this list, but I got to shout out George Karlaftis because we talk about Chris Jones getting the sacks. But a lot of times, and Haley, you've heard this with the defensive coaches, it's not always the sacks, the pressures. Bob said, you say it all the time, Spag said it too, just get them off their spot. Mm-hmm. Just get the timing mixed up. Just get out of the rhythm and within the framework of the play, the way that it's designed. That's why it's got to be so frustrating for coaches to go up against Mahomes, because you get him out of timing, out of rhythm, and he just runs around and makes plays like he's running around in the backyard. But George Karlaftis has done a great job getting quarterbacks off their spot this year. He's got 20 quarterback pressures through 4 games, which is tied for 7th best in the NFL. I'm going to say it again. Wow. George Karlaftis is tied for 7th with 20 pressures so far this year. And I read these earlier to Tucker. And just for impact, here are the players that are around the same number of pressures as George Karlaftis this year. So the 3 with the most pressures, they're tied for first. Aiden Hutchinson, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby. It tracks. They're all pretty good. So 4th, Myles Garrett, 23 quarterback pressures. The top 3 guys had 27. 5th, TJ Watt with 22 pressures. Also detracts. 6th, Khalil Mack, 21. Tracks after yesterday.
Kind of good the other day.
Tracks. I don't know how many of the pressures. 6 of the sacks game yesterday. And then it's George Karlaftis and Nick Bosa tied with 20 quarterback pressures.
Vastly different paychecks between those 2.
Yes. Yes, it is. And the fact that, again, we've talked about it before, the Chiefs defense doing what they're doing without Charles Omenihu, who's brought in to be that other complementary piece.
Coming back.
His ability on the inside to do, and they showed it on the replay, and all I could think about is I can't wait till Omenihu's doing that. It has nothing to do with George Karlaftis. We just talked about how great it is. But one of the plays where Zach Wilson got to the outside and Karlaftis was lined up outside and did a stunt back to the inside and then chased Wilson from outside. And not that George Karlaftis hasn't got a lot more athletic in his ability to turn and kind of run like that, but that's the kind of play and moment that Charles Omenihu will bring down the quarterback in that play because he's just more athletically fluid in turning the corner and doing some of those things that I cannot wait until he is back. Need Chris to stay healthy, Karlaftis to keep doing what he's doing, get Felix to get some wins in some easier situations. He's going to be one-on-one. The rest of these guys are going to be one-on-one with Chris and Omenihu and with Karlaftis. Like it's working really, really well right now. And the Chiefs have 2 more games without Omenihu, and then once he gets back,
it's week.
Fun.
Is it week? It's week 7 that he comes back, correct?
I believe so.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what they call it? It's called that hip fluidity.
Hip fluidity.
That's what he's got.
Called ankle flexion.
Got that ankle.
I was always the one around Travis. He's got ankle flexion. And I remember Bobby Shroop saying this because he would train like the quarterbacks were running in like the semicircles.
Yeah.
And like that drill. I'm like, that's training that little athletic fluid. I don't know what to call it, but you're running as fast as you can straight, and then you turn at like a 60, 70-degree angle without slowing down.
What you're saying is it's only going to get better for the Chiefs team.
It's pretty good. It's going to get better.
I'm excited.
I like it. You know who else is getting better? Noah Gray.
Okay. I didn't know if we were going like with the offense.
I could have said that about any of these, to be honest.
Yeah, the next 3, yes.
That transition works for any of them. But late in the first quarter, Noah Gray caught a 34-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes on the corner route. I remember actually sitting next to you. I was like, here comes the corner route to Justin Watson.
And then it was Gray.
I was like, I was right route.
It was right route, yeah.
Wrong player. But it was the first passing touchdown of the night from Mahomes. It was Gray's longest reception of his career, which is a little surprising because he's made a handful of plays.
He has, but he shows up just... He pops up here and there when it's needed. He provides that depth. I think a couple of years back the Chiefs really had an issue with depth at tight end because it was after Travis Kelce was like, ooh. And now they brought him in at the next draft and then started really giving him more catches, but also just the fact that we've seen him grow as a player, being able to come up clutch in those situations. Even in the loss week 1 against the Lions, he had a couple of impressive catches. I can't remember when because I try to reroute my brain to forget that entire game. But the fact that we're seeing him continue to grow as a player and come up in those situations, he did that to a T.
Yeah.
Made an impressive catch and gave Mahomes his 200th career touchdown.
I say I was overly negative about Noah Gray, but I owe somewhat of an apology and didn't see this.
Wasn't really any flash.
I didn't think there was going to be a ton of snaps that were going to give into him behind Mahomes, behind Travis Kelce. And didn't see the role evolving for him the way that it has. And that is 100% credit to Noah Gray's mental acuity of being able to play the tight end position that we talk about receivers and what that puts on him. Herbie Teope used to write about this a long time ago and what tight ends in Andy Reid's offense have to deal with mentally on where to line up and what to do in certain situations. Because we talk about with receivers a lot. It's the same thing with tight ends, except sometimes they have to come in and block. They have blocking responsibilities that drastically could cause humongous issues if you miss a block and your quarterback gets laid out. But Shout out to Noah Gray, just kind of carving himself a role and really making some really, really big catches. Every time he catches it, I'm like, oh, nice job, Travis. Like, yeah, Travis is open again. And
you're like, oh, another kid.
Noah Gray. Good job, bud. It's happened a few times over the last few years. But yeah, shout out Noah Gray. His ability to get down the field, track a ball as a tight end. It's
not easy.
It's a testament to him. And it's more on the mental side that impresses me for him to get the high leverage snaps that he's getting. He's coming in some big moments and making some big time catches.
Another guy who is coming in, big time moments, not necessarily catches, but doing other things. Trip McDuffie. We've praised this guy a lot last year, and I think a lot of people forget that last season he was hurt for the first, I think it was like 6 weeks almost 6 weeks that he was out.
I don't know how long it was bothering him, but yeah,
right.
He missed some time early.
And then so he goes on with six tackles, 5 of those being solo. Finished second on the team in tackles. He finished as the team's first or second leading tackler in 3 of the Chiefs' first 4 games this season. He leads the team in tackles this season, 16, 9 of which are solos. Again, he racked up 2 forced fumbles and a quarterback pressure and a pass. What were you saying?
He's a good football player.
What was the stat that came out that you were saying they said on the broadcast? And then
he's number 1. Yeah.
Okay, so that already came out.
Yeah, he had been number 1 going into that game, and everybody was talking about it because
they continued to be.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm assuming that he continues to be the number 1 cornerback. I don't know who's number 2. I know DJ Reed is up there. Sauce Gardner's not, according to Pro Football Focus numbers. But it's always interesting to have Collinsworth on there talking about guys and then having the PFF grades right there, which normally for the Chiefs haven't been great. So it was kind of cool that a player is ranked number 1.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Who's 3? Now he's number
3.
Who's number 1 and 2, Tuck?
Isaac Yiadom.
Yeah.
And this guy's played 3 snaps this year. Hugo Amadi has played 3 snaps for New Orleans. Both these guys from New Orleans are 1 and 2. But Trent McDuffie has played 235 snaps this year and is if you cut it off at like 150 snaps, the guys who play consistently, he's number 1.
So he's still number 1. We're still he's still number 1.
Yeah, we can make this. We can make this fit our argument.
Yeah, we can move the goalposts.
Make it fit my narrative.
We can do it. We can do it.
We can put as many. They keep adding stats and all these little filters. We can keep changing them until it says what we want it to.
But yeah, anyways, that's a kid who I loved watching him during the draft. Washington takes, huge pride in how they develop DBs, and then to see him transition so quickly over to the NFL, pick up the game speed. I remember talking with Steve Spagnuolo about that. I said, did you actually think he was going to be that good? And he goes, I mean, you just never know. Like, you never know with young players. They come in, they get it done, and it's been a wonderful blessing that they've been so good. But he's obviously, leading the charge there, and especially with those second-year players. Had some big plays in the AFC Championship game last year, and then rolls on through.
I had a big play in the game last night.
Yeah, you want to talk about him. You take it away. He did.
I was excited because
it was impressive.
I teased at the beginning of the show. There are going to be a handful of things that I remember from that game like 3 months from now. Like, we'll forget the rest of it unless you have like a Patrick Mahomes, eidetic memory and you remember everything. I will remember Isaiah Pacheco's run and just his performance because he was close to a hometown. You humanize the guys. Like, he's close to his hometown. I'm sure he had a lot of family and friends and people that knew him there that were watching or that cared about him. So it's cool. But Brian Cook's tackle in the open field, as soon as it happened, I tweeted out, I'm like, that was the biggest play of the game. Especially I want to wait until after they didn't score on that drive, which they didn't. But that was such a difficult tackle, running with the guy right behind you with a blocker in the open field. Nobody within maybe 10 or 15 yards. Wait till the all-22 angle comes out to see exactly where everybody else was at. But Breece Hall is going to score if Brian Cook doesn't make that tackle. Brian Cook made that tackle. Jets don't end up scoring. And at that point, the game was tied at 20-20. It was the end of the third quarter. I think it was about 4 minutes left to go in the third quarter at that time.
Pretty sure he made his blocker trip up and then was able to take him down. Like, the awareness while you're running full speed to be able to do that.
But we talk about margin of error, and all NFL games come down to 7 to 10 plays. And that was one of them for the Chiefs, and they made the play and they got it done. Obviously, there's some stuff for the Jets on their end with like the Zach Wilson fumble on the snap and some other things that they would have liked, and especially with some of the ref stuff that we haven't even got into. I don't like talking about refs after the game. unless it's the Jawan Taylor lining up type thing, some of the judgment calls. But Brian Cook making that tackle is a play that, as long as Brian Cook is with the Chiefs, I will probably remember that tackle because of how much and how important I think that was. I think good teams, championship type teams, win games when they're not at their best, especially on the road in prime time when you're taking everybody's best shot. You need players to step up and make plays, and Brian Cook stepped up when his team needed him.
I think that's the overall theme of this game, right? Championship teams win when they play their worst game in prime time and still find a way to win on offense and defense. I mean, this is just another situation where you see the Chiefs not playing to their full potential and still being able to beat another NFL team.
Yeah, and we saw it last year. Obviously,
Zach Wilson's best game, mind you.
Yeah. That's the only thing that's interesting.
It was impressive.
I kind of hope the lights came on for Zach Wilson because I kind of, as just a human being, kind of feel bad for him a little bit. He had been so bad at the beginning of his career, and they brought in Aaron Rodgers to give him like a red shirt year in the middle of his career to kind of sit back and watch a professional do it. All the fans are excited, and all of a sudden Rodgers gets hurt, and it's like, oh, crap, we got this guy again.
Yeah.
That's not going to help his confidence at all. And so I felt bad for him. I think some of the Chiefs players even felt bad because there were a lot of guys after the game. And I
went over and talked to him. Yeah.
And this is where, Haley, you can attest to this because you've been there too. I don't know if the Chiefs players went out of their way to praise Zach Wilson or if a Jets beat reporter was in there asking the Chiefs players specifically about Zach Wilson.
I think it was the latter
nice
because you saw even Chris Jones talking to Rodney Harrison, I think it was, on broadcast, and not to down or get after Harrison for that, but he kind of baited him, trying to bait Chris into talking crap on Zach Wilson, and Chris took it perfectly, and he rerouted the question, gave him praise, and I think it might have been a Jets beat reporter in the locker room
baiting for a soundbite.
Yes.
No way. No way.
Trying to get that clickbait, right? And then everyone. Well, here's the thing: Reed shuts that crap down so fast, right? Yeah. And so they all have it drilled in their head. Don't give them what they're trying to get after. I mean, you saw even Willie Gay said one quote about, and he wasn't even saying it in a bad light, and that one blew up, Yeah. So it's just being careful about what you say. But I don't think they were purposely complimenting him.
Yeah.
More so just
gotcha.
I'm not going to get trouble for
I just wish that players could come out and say, hey, he's in the NFL. He's super talented, but at our level, he's not been very good.
Yeah.
If we come out and play our best, they're not going to be very good. But
they get torn apart for saying that,
Yeah, they can't be honest in that kind of way. But looking through some of these games last year, I'm just looking through the schedule. Obviously, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, and people wondering, I'm not trying to fast forward through the regular season to only get to the playoffs and just kind of skip through all of this. But when I say survive in advance, just win the game and move on, the Chiefs won a lot of games last year. They didn't play their best football, and they still eked it out, ended up not mattering. All the issues that we talk about in the 24 hours after each of these games. I mean, in week 5 last year, they beat the Raiders by 1. And then in week 9, they beat the Titans in overtime by 3. And then they beat in week 11, the Chargers by 3. And then lost to Cincinnati, and then won a 1-score game against Denver in the game that we all remember. And then goes to overtime against Houston, another team that wasn't very good, that gave the Chiefs their absolute best shot. This is what it's going to be. The Chiefs aren't going to come out and just blow everybody out every week, because they are going up against the defending Super Bowl champions. And all of the players they're playing up against, all of their friends and family want to know, how are you going to do against Mahomes? You're going up against the best player. You're going with all these celebrities, and everybody's following them around now. It's just putting an even bigger target on their back to say, I picked off, Patrick Mahomes and Wolverine was watching from the box. It's just.
How did we not mention that? We haven't even got it. Okay.
Because we cover football
here. Here's what I did say. Love that.
We can talk about it.
Rodney Harrison called Zach Wilson garbage in his postgame and tried to bait Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones into agreeing with him. Chris Jones completely shut it down, gave Zach Wilson high praise.
Yeah, I don't get that. I saw some reports after the game maybe a couple weeks ago where this defensive player, there's a report from one of the New York papers saying some of the defensive players were complaining, saying we can't win with this guy, and that there was these issues within the locker room.
Yeah, I saw that.
Stuff just annoying. Don't love it. Don't love it. We've been on teams too much for that kind of crap to fester. He needs down in our team. I just hate that crap.
Yeah, I'm with you on the. I like being a player's advocate, and that's the stories that I will share.
Team players.
Yep, there we go.
All right, so let's go through some extra points here very, very quickly to wrap up this show. But Andy Reid making history, tying Tom Landry with 250 wins. I thought he did it last week. I saw the same.
It was so I think that's in regular season wins. That was overall wins. I think what we saw last week, and this is regular season wins. I need to. Okay,
they said to figure out a way to put it back in there and get in the nod. Okay, so
this is regular season wins.
Perfectly not confusing. Got it.
Nope.
All right, Mike Edwards in the backfield. Mike Edwards brought down Zach Wilson. Sack for the first quarter for loss of 10 yards. A 10-yard loss put the Jets behind the sticks, leading to a New York punt 3 plays later. This served as Edwards' first sack as a member of the Chiefs and brought his career total to 3. Edwards was disruptive on Sunday night, adding a season-high 4 solo tackles and a pass defensed, along with his sack.
I like that.
It takes everybody. Everybody's got to step up and make a play when their time is called. And the beautiful thing about the Chiefs is they've had a history of all the guys being ready, and that's why going back to training camp and all those things, Andy Reid preaches when your time is called, be ready to step up and make a play. And Chiefs have always been really good about that.
Turk also had a really good play, recovering that fumble. Him coming back from an ACL injury last season. Great to see him do that. And then Drew Tranquil filling in for Nick Bolton, another exceptional game for him. 8 tackles, 7 of those solo. He had that forced fumble, 19-yard line in the second quarter of the matchup, or on Kansas City's 19-yard line. So ready to have Nick Bolton back, but he's filled in and done an exceptional job for him. His first year.
Absolutely. Between Nick Bolton not being there, and we talked about Charles Omenihu not being there, it'd be a beautiful thing. Have we missed anybody? I think we talked through the entire roster of what we've done. Tucker, did we miss anybody? We didn't talk about Travis Kelce. Had 6 catches for 60 yards. Team had 9 targets. Belong of 16.
I mean, the only other thing we could ever talk about would be penalties, and I really don't have the.
I thought you were going to say Taylor Swift,
nope.
Sophie Turner.
I'm not a pop culture girly.
Michael
I don't
Jackson.
understand it all.
Tupac hologram. Glad they caught the guy that put the hit out.
But I do think you had a wonderful idea of making a drinks game out of how many times they showed her on TV.
I said, shout out
because I
Harold
would have
Coots.
been.
They kept track. There's 24 mentions or shots or like mentions or like put her on camera 24 times. That's a lot. It's a lot for anybody. But again, I get it in that we're talking about the most popular global superstar in the world. This sounds so bad, like in her prime. Like she's single. She's like that age where she's out like having fun.
Yeah, she's doing great.
She's doing her thing. She's out having fun, and Kelsey and company are doing the same thing. And I just love that this team is ready for something like this to not be a distraction. Like that's the part that I love about this is I don't think there's even an ounce of iota of distractions with everything we've seen so far. With any of this is the only thing that would really get in the way of what they're doing. But they know what to do. They've got a target on their back, and they're living in the moment. It's just cool, again, that it's all happening in Kansas City and all this attention is surrounding the Chiefs and our community. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, Cardi B was at Town Topic last night.
I did not know that.
The celebs are coming to KC.
Just being...
She was just out
standing, sitting on the little concrete slab right there to the side, waiting your turn, and Cardi B walks up.
Yep. Kansas City is an interesting place to be right now. So lots of fun things coming up. Chiefs go on the road next week again.
Tucker, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who'd you say was moving to Kansas City?
A$AP Rocky and Rihanna have reported.
Wait, what?
Yeah. This show's about to take a whole other turn.
Yeah.
I looked at them and I was like, what? No, they're not.
There's rumors that they bought a house in Kansas City off of Ward Parkway.
Goodness. Look at me. Putting our history together makes you think I could add any color to anything about that.
Listen, I mean, A$AP Rocky did shoot a recent music video in Kansas City. He is on record as saying he really does like Kansas City as a city itself. He shot it, I believe, down in Westport or the West Bottoms. I can't remember. One of the Wests.
So he liked it so much on his trips. Like, you know what? He's going to buy a house here.
And it could be, I did see some people speculate that it could be an investment property that he bought. But
that makes more sense than like, he had around settling down in Liberty. It's just for hanging out.
Great area. Expanding north.
Okay. Well,
I don't know him. I shouldn't say that. That's probably not fair, but I would just be very surprised. All the places.
Are we going to add a pop culture podcast to Kansas City Sports Network?
Listen, what
was Kent's idea? He called it the
Red.
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 All right. Well, let's get out of this one.
We have enough shows. We appreciate everybody for supporting this one. And if we missed any of the 10 things, or if there's anything specific that we talked about that you really like, please let us know in the comment section, or leave us a review if you're listening on the podcast audio channels, whether it's Apple, Spotify. Please leave us a rating and a review. It does help us reach more people and we can do more things. And special shout out again to Mission Taco Joint. Go grab yourself an any given holiday cocktail. They're very, very good and supporting a great cause. And if you go on Tuesday, make sure to mention KCSN and get 10% off. You want to close it out? We just did. Show's over, folks. And thanks for spending part of your day with us. Only Weird Games live at 4:30, Lab live at 8 tonight on Monday. If you're listening to this the next day, make sure to go listen to them. I'm sure they will be highly entertaining. See y'all later.